Yeah, see, we're already live now. This is what's happening. So you got your drink. I got my gin and ginger ale right now, which is gonna change into something else in a minute. So this is Flux with it, and Ken Flux Pierce here with Brad of Isla Instruments. He's making some kind of drum machine sampler thing, I guess. Might be called a SP2400. So Brad, here's the
I'm
situation.
hearing. Hang on a minute. I'm hearing like three of you.
Oh, that's good. That's probably because you got another another thing open. There we go.
I'm hearing. Hang on a minute. I'm hearing like three of you.
Oh, that's good. That's probably because
Fix
you got
that.
another fix it.
I'm hearing.
Do you have like multiple windows open of the stream? Maybe that's it.
I'm hearing.
Do you have like multiple windows open of the stream?
Uh,
All right, everybody, listen.
uh,
We're having a technical difficulty
right. Is
right
that
now.
better?
All
Is that
right.
better?
Yeah. Yeah. People in the chat are talking about your open window situation. So they know. The question is do you?
Yeah, but that one's muted. Oh my god.
You got a hidden window.
Yeah, but that one's muted.
What's up, Fabrice?
Oh my god. You got
I
it.
see David Ramirez in here.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay,
So
that's better,
people are
right?
populating in the stream right now while Brad tries to figure out
Sort
how
his
to use a
life out.
computer.
Okay, I think that's better now. I think that's all right.
Okay, so just a quick heads up to the people that are chatting. If you're not in the YouTube stream, I don't see your name in the Facebook comments. I just see Facebook user. Okay, so I know who it is that just
I'm busy at the
commented
moment,
about the
darling. I'm
braces,
sorry.
but that's only because I know who that is. But if you're in the Facebook feed, you might want to migrate over to the YouTube just so that I actually know who it is that's commenting. It's a lot easier that way. So, can you hear everything okay now, Brad? Is it all good? Let me hear your voice.
You can hear me?
Yeah, you're like I don't know what happened. We had you all situated to where I could see you better, or at least you were looking at me better.
Well, I'm trying not to let you get too many angles on my big fat face. So.
Well, you're looking in the wrong direction because the center window. There you are.
Oh, you want me
That's
to
where you
look
should be
there?
looking.
Okay.
Look
Okay.
at that camera. Yeah, Brad's got like 15 cameras in there because he's used to doing like B films. We'll call them B. It's
Okay.
probably a different series of letters, but whatever. There, I got a shirt on too, but it was okay. It's Operation Ivy. It's not. it's not my own company. So let's talk about what you got going on, man. The first thing that I guess we should talk about is you have a video that's not up yet that you keep telling us is coming, but it's
Yeah, I
not
know.
up yet.
Well, I'm trying to produce a nice looking video to go through all the new features and everything, and where the firmware is at, and just I'm not a videographer, and it just gets it's just a lot of swearing going on, and you
I
get
kind of
halfway
know a
through
little
a
bit
decent
about that.
take, and then you muff it up, and then you try not to say every 10 seconds, and uh, but yeah, my cameras aren't working, so I'm getting there, and I've got it. It all looks nice, and I've got my technique down and everything, but the my camera game is not strong. But it's
We're not
coming.
gonna throw black magic under the bus for cheaping out on a cable.
No, I know. Yeah, that's this thing here that we got, especially to do all of that video switching stuff, and it's just not. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll
Yeah,
get there.
so that video is coming, and that video is going to be based around what? Can you tell us what that video is all about?
Yeah, so it's basically just, I haven't had a chance to show being able to switch through all the different inputs and gain stages and pulling filters in and out of circuit and, being able to plug a record deck, which I've got. You probably can't see it, but it's right here. There's a
We
1210
can see it. Yeah, it's
next to
up
the
there.
machine. So now you can plug it straight into the machine and just sample directly from a record deck from phono input. And the phono amps sound really good. Um, yeah, and just vibing out on it basically. And now, now all the devs have got these good machines, the final machines. Then the development will start really ramping up in the next few weeks.
So let me ask you a little bit about the actual build real quick. So a while back we had talked about the pads, and the pads were test pads at that point. They weren't really the
Yeah,
finalized pads. So the pads that you have on that machine, are those the ones that you're going to be mass producing? Are those tool made samples? Like what are we looking at?
yeah. The pads, we're happy with the dynamics of the pads now. They're responsive. They're not squidgy and soft like a lot of other machines are. They're quite tough. They feel good to me. We'll soon see what people say about them. I like a stiffer pad. Uh, Feels a bit more closer to a drum pad that you get on like a drum.
Like a head?
Not a head, but like the specific drum machines that
Yeah.
are pads. They feel a bit tougher like that, so they feel good.
Tempest has a bit, yeah. Tempest has a bit tougher pads that are, they're still quite velocity sensitive and everything, but it's it's a different dynamic. So, in fact, I was just having this conversation because I was dealing with some comments about the Hydrosynth pads on the desktop. In relation to Novation Launchpad pads, Push 2 pads, machine pads, MPC pads. There's all these different pads out there these days, which back in the day when, for instance, when the SP1200 and the MPC 60 and all that were being made, we didn't have all these options. And now it's to the point where the sensors are actually sensitive enough that you can kind of, depending on what you like, your preferences, you can get different pad controllers of all styles. Some
Yeah.
people like really soft pads, some people like really thick pads, some people like thinner pads. There's all these different options out there, but they're all way better than the ASRX pads from
No,
back
they
in the
feel they
day.
feel they feel really nice to me, and they're solid. You've got to let me plug my power adapter in because the laptop's going to die. I'm so sorry.
What in the hell?
It's because I moved all of this so that you could get the camera angle, and now it's
I
just
guess
all
we should
drained.
also kind of talk about your recent move.
Yeah, and that's just been a nightmare as well. We had to just give me a minute.
So I'll just kind of let people know in the stream a little bit. Brad recently moved into a 65 bedroom mansion. Uh,
Dude, it's a three-bedroom
Um,
house. Come
it
on.
what was interesting was it wasn't his move that was so difficult. It was getting all of his butler's things into the house. That
Oh.
was the hard part, because he's just.
It's a three-bedroom house. It's just that it had a big garage so that we can, or say garage, so that we can really start hammering out some units in there.
So yeah, the pads. You've had those. You've got like the laser etching for the pads, and that stuff is all looking pretty nice to you. What about the You have these two the two smaller pads above the main pad.
Yeah.
Now, do those function as are they velocity sensitive at all, or are they on
Those
off buttons?
These aren't. These are just on-off buttons on the top. Haven't we talked about these before? I don't know.
Yeah, but not really since it's gotten this far along.
Right. So they're going to serve several different purposes, and they're going to be kind of contextual as to what mode you're in. Excuse me. I just ate dinner. When you're in sequencing mode, they're going to be good because there's 16 of them. They'll be nice for sort of TR, Roland TR style sequencing. Inputting drums, and you'll be able to see the ticker going through. But in also looper, the looper mode and stuff like that, it'll be loop on, loop off. Punching in and out, stopping recording. So it'll have different. It'll be these buttons will have different use cases in different modes. And there's the little buttons on the top can be green, red, or orange.
So again, just because I'm getting some questions in the chat, I want to reiterate the fact that we're not going to do a direct audio sound demo in here. We're
We
going to demo
can't
a
right
couple of
now because of
things.
this stupid setup that I've got, which
Exactly.
I
So this is a
apologise for,
live. For one
but
thing,
that's
this
what's
is a
coming in
live
the
stream.
video that I'm doing at the moment. So
Well, one thing that people need to understand is that this is a live stream. You do not get high quality audio in live streams, no matter what. Okay,
yeah,
so it would make no sense to really do a proper audio demo like that. You know, with us chatting like that. Like if I did a live stream by myself, the audio stream quality goes up a little bit, but especially when you have guests in, it's not good. So he's shooting a specific video on some sound quality update information on stereo and all that stuff. He'll get you covered on that stuff. That'll be going up soon.
yes.
But this is going to be more about the build, what's going on with production, why he's getting double chins, all that good information, right? So, uh,
Just to answer Sparkle Effects Flake in there, yes, absolutely. About sending sync clock to external gear. That's very important. And if you haven't noticed, also before there are mini jacks on the back to send out clock pulse to things like Volcas and stuff like that. So yeah, MIDI sync and sending clock is going to be a big thing, big part of it.
Yeah. So and Ranzi, who has a great YouTube channel, and I highly recommend people check it out. He's based out of Australia. Um, he even notes in here that live stream audio at best is 320 kilobytes a second, which that's not what I found. I found on
Well,
my
it's
side
not
I'm
even
only
that.
seeing 160 is what YouTube wants to compress to at
Yeah,
max. But
it's not only that.
callers
You're
get
hearing
about
this through the
30 kilobytes a
speakers, so
second audio. So
you'll be hearing this through my speakers through the camera mic.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yes,
Just so you guys understand why it is like it's nothing cagey or weird. It's just the fact that like it would make no sense. It would sound so dope and lo-fi.
yeah. No,
Man, that drum
it's
machine
all
sounds so
wireless.
lo-fi.
It is working, I promise.
um, so let me get into some of the production information that we were talking about in
Yeah,
your Facebook update. Let's get that stuff out of the way.
yeah,
So what's going on with that?
yeah. It's just been a stressful time, and I always hate delivering that bad news. But you know, there's one of the biggest things was realizing that, oh shit, usually I get all my stuff air freighted, which is here within a week, or thereabouts. And me being an idiot, not really thinking about that, these are metal, steel, and aluminium enclosures. And when you're sending like several hundred of them on a plane, it's ridiculously expensive. So we're having to go with ocean shipping, which is around about 24 to 25 days that it takes to get here. And of course, that adds a big thing to the lead time on getting them out. Um, that and also the slide pots, which are the faders on the top. Again, my ignorance, not being bliss, was expecting them to be ready to ship to my contract manufacturer who's going to do the top boards. But there's a 3-week lead time on them, so they're the biggest things that have put me back a little bit. But
Um,
as I said in the video, there's a few friends, a couple of people coming over from the UK that have done this sort of stuff before that are going to help, and I've got some great guys here that already help. So there's going to be a much bigger uh, team building them.
one of the questions about that setup, or at least really, I guess I'm kind of threading through a little bit more information, is the unfortunate fact is in China, so they recently had a holiday. There's
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well,
Now
it's their
that
New Year at the moment.
yeah, and that they take that holiday very seriously, and
Yeah,
it
well, they
it
should because they don't really get much time off. So
exactly. So they tend to shut down for a while for that. Now,
yeah,
typically, and I noticed this in your video, and this is why I'm bringing it up. Typically, it would be back to work on Monday, which would be the end of the Chinese New Year.
yeah,
However, I can tell you that I know many factories are going to be closed through the 10th because of the
Yeah, some of them
coronavirus.
extend that. Yeah,
So hopefully everybody's going to be okay out there, and they get that situation under control. I've got quite a few friends out there as well. So, we're hoping for the best for China right now. But,
yeah,
be aware that that's just a reality of life right now. And that I know for a fact a lot of the factories are shut down until at least the 10th.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
that kind of slows things down a little bit, and that snowballs down the road because that's like component manufacturing and everything, and then things kind of snowball off of that. So that's why I bring it up.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the build things, because and some of this stuff is rehashing a little bit of old information, but I keep getting the questions about it, so I want to bring it up.
Well,
One of the
there's a lot of
re
new people that come on board, and there's a lot of old information to try and digest for a lot of people. So
well,
I get the repeat questions.
one of the things one of the things that I keep getting a question about, and for the record, I do see people saying, I got to dispel this real quick because it's such a ridiculous comment, and
Shout
it's
out to
probably
my
a joke in here.
alcoholic.
It was probably a joke in here, but I've seen it with other companies that I've worked with. I've seen that come in as a serious question. You can't get coronavirus from gear that's shipped out of China, so calm down. Like, I know the earth is flat. I get that. I know HARP is controlling the weather, but
Yeah,
coronavirus is not transmitted via synths or
or
samplers. I'm just
cardboard
letting you know
boxes,
now.
rotary encoders, and stuff.
Dude, honestly, if we make this stream about conspiracy theories, I get so many more views. Oh, that's where the money is. But
Yes,
anyway, so
David, there are two phono preamps, yeah, and yes, and also the idea further down the line, I'm talking to David Ramirez. There is that
yep.
the two phono preamps will be able to be should be able to be used for reading time code vinyl. Uh, because it's one of my big bright ideas is kind of using this to DJ with a little bit. And given that it's got the instant reply to that may be, oh, well, there's no crossfade or there's no this or that. But because it's got a USB host port, we can pretty much devise any external controller for it that we care to. And there's also some that already exist that are like DJ, like the Akai thing with a crossfader on it. I think it's an APK or something like that. That you'll be able to plug into it. So, so yeah, that's what the phono preamps are for: sampling and time code.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to excuse me, in the future. Say, oh, Corona's getting me. Um, I'm looking forward in the future to seeing, how that USB host port can be exploited and
Yeah,
used to the advantage. And I suspect that that's something that will be kind of like a ongoing development thing.
yeah, I do. I don't know why more gear hasn't got it because it's if later down the line you're like, oh, I wish that we could do this with it. Well, bang! If you've got a USB host, all you got to do is devise a little peripheral for it. Make a new peripheral that controls whatever that task that you want it to do is.
Uh, yeah. So one of the
How
questions that
heavy is it? It's
I
it's it's 15 pounds.
is it really?
So you can definitely knock someone out with it.
That's like, I want to say that's like, dude, yeah, that's like classic sampler heavy. That's like
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
I want to say the 2000 XL was maybe slightly even lighter than that. Let's
I will tell you actually if it's heavy or not. I'm pretty certain it is. It's
I can tell, I got mine right here, but I can't hold the other one cuz it's not here yet.
so two KXL.
This is scientific, people.
They're about the same.
Yeah, I figured it was pretty damn close to that.
Yeah.
I remember because I used to take my 2KXL in the car with me, and I had a power inverter, and I used to plug it into my Monte Carlo and drive down the road making beats mad unsafe. Texting and driving is nothing. Okay, let me get back to the question I was going to ask. So, one of the reoccurring questions that I keep seeing is that people are concerned about buying a piece of gear from a boutique manufacturer, which you are, and support down the road for if things break. Can you tell us a little bit about like what your warranty is going to be, what and like repairs, that kind of stuff?
Well, what I'll do is I'll use CordBot as an example. I've been building CordBot now, I think, what, about 3 or 4 years. They come back occasionally, and it's supposed to be a year warranty. But I'm small enough that looking after people when their thing breaks, as long as it hasn't been abuse, if it's a legitimate, the screen's died, or not I've plugged like 240 volts into a 9 volt DC input, or I've smashed it down the stairs. I tend to just repair them anyway and just charge people shipping. So because I'm small, you can do that, you know. But yeah, 1 year, it'll be 1 year return to base warranty, as with most stuff. But as I said, I'm not unreasonable, and usually if it's been longer than that, I just charge people the shipping,
So we're
unless they
gonna
smash it
question.
out.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I keep saying is I'm like,
Because I will, but let me just say there's been a few times when people have sent cord bots back, and they're like, yeah, it started making a smell and it doesn't work anymore or whatever, blah blah blah. So they send it back, and I've been amazed. There's been like cord bots, and it looks like people have tried to open them with a fucking spoon or something. Like
I'm not
there's
gonna
like
say that I haven't done that with
teeth
gear.
marks, teeth marks in the side of it and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, because usually what I do is I wait for it to get here, and when it gets here, I just send them a new one because it's quicker. But when I get a cord bot back that's got like teeth marks in it and trying to open it with a fork or something, I'm like, dude, what do you want me to do here? And then I just put a new board in it and send them their half chewed up cord bot back.
Yeah,
But at least it works again.
yeah. One of the things reason why I bring that that up is people are talking about like, oh well, it's going to be downtime because I have to ship it out to them, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, you ever had to get like a rolling product fixed? Like really? So, I mean, like what are we talking about
I
here?
honestly, in my whole life, I don't think I've ever sent anything back for repair.
I've had to send a few things.
I'd always buy spare parts and fix it myself, or just
Eurorack, I've sent out two, maybe two modules, maybe three, and that's only because it was an expensive module, and I asked, and the person was like, "No, I don't want you fixing it," and I was like, "Okay,
yeah.
then I'm sending it off because I'm not going to waste six hundred
Yeah, but
dollars."
there's
And
a whole logistical difference when you're offering, return to base warranties, and you've sold like 10,000 or something. But if I've only sold a few hundred, or a couple of thousand or something, it's much easier to.
yeah, it's just funny to me because I'm like, realistically, in my experience at least, the larger companies tend to take a little bit longer to fix things because they have way more tech,
Yeah,
complaints coming in.
yeah,
So
and
it tends
I
to
think a lot
be,
of the times they don't repair them themselves anyway. They have like authorized repair agents and stuff.
yeah. Fat Drum says I've opened many NPCs. Yeah, me too. I've also fried a few of them. um, but hey, that's all part of the fun of your gear. Just don't fry your 2400. Don't do that. Okay, so moving on from there, I get asked a lot about whether or not there will be a software editor or any kind of like computer component to the 2400.
So there's this really interesting thing called the Juice framework, which is a quite a groundbreaking development kit for plugins and stuff like that. But it also deals with it's cross-platform. Juice, I think, is run or owned by the Rolly guys, and a lot of plugins are developed in Juice. Considering that everything on the SP2400, every parameter will be controllable either via MIDI or the USB, it's obvious that there will be a plugin to control it. There's no interest from my side in making a plugin, a standalone plugin, but there will be a remote controller for it at some point. But
Okay,
that's not
yeah.
something that I'm particularly marketing right now, and
And
it
that's
might
not.
be.
Are you saying not necessarily first party, but like third party? That's
Yeah,
certainly
it
an
could be
open
it could be third
possibility.
party. What I'm saying is that the hardware is more than happy to deal with being any of its controls being remotely controlled.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so there's that. Then there's the question about the card size. So I saw you commenting on Facebook about your max card size, and then I was getting questions about like, oh well, what? how big can I use? And then I
Yeah.
saw that you had commented about, you didn't like going over 32 gigs, and I kind of agree with you on part of that, and I'll let you answer as to why.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few factors that play in that. Um, One, because of the microcontroller family that we use, I wasn't exactly sure what the maximum limit was, because when you look online in various tech places, different things are mentioned. But I posted earlier on in the week that I tested with a 512 gig card, and then I tested with a 1 terabyte card, and it worked just fine. But um, one, this is a pretty small OLED screen, and so I know why people want huge SD cards, because they think to themselves, "Oh, I'm just going to bang my entire sample collection on an SD card, and there it is." And they'd be absolutely right. Yeah, there it is, and you can use it all. But if you've got like fucking a folder with 10,000 gigs in it, right, it's not going to be the most. It just doesn't lend itself to that sort of file management. But that's completely fine if that's how you want to work. Then yes. The other thing is, and I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong here, but I've blown SD cards up, and they can seemingly just die for absolutely no reason. You'd like pop it out of your laptop and it's dead. Um, so I tend to favour using small, manageable SD cards, and maybe store 5 or 10 projects on it. And but how people use it is up to them. It's just when
Yeah,
people want to use a two
I'm of the
terabyte
mindset
SD
of
card, I'm like, you can, but I'm not sure why. But
yeah, I'm of the mindset of it. One, if you're going to use a large SD card, if it's really full, it does tend to slow down, because they
right,
don't have the throughput that something like
right,
a
yeah. I
I just
mean, the
got one of
modern
those.
ones are pretty fast, man. I mean, we could sit here and stream 8 full length tracks and mess around with the pitches on them all,
Yeah, but if
streaming
you've
on an
got
SD
like
card at once.
multiple
But
gigs on an SD card of samples, like when you're scrolling through, like yeah, I've seen it slow down, and I mean, if you've got something like an MPC Live, like I've got the MPC Live, and when I fill that thing up, yeah, it's not the greatest.
yeah,
But bigger than that to me is about like I'm crazy about redundancy backups, because like I do sound design, dude. I'm
yeah.
building a contact instrument, and I've got 50 gigs worth of sample content, and I'm editing and whatnot, and then the hard drive dies or a SD card dies, and then you lose all that. That's not a good thing. So I kind of favor the idea of keeping things in smaller chunks
Yeah,
personally.
we
But
should
that's just
also
me.
the machine will also actually act as a memory card reader over USB back to your machine anyway. So rather than have to take the SD card out, you should be able to drag and drop files and straight onto your into your folders on your SD. So there'll be various different ways that people can sort of do housekeeping on their files.
Here's an interesting question in the YouTube comments. That what are the horizontal lines around the faders?
Um, that's exactly what they are, just horizontal lines. I think they're more aesthetic. They're not.
The reason why I'm bringing that up.
Yeah, because people think, oh, are they the pitch steps, or are they the do they mean something? And no, not really.
Well, I want to say this. The reason why I bring that up is because and to a lesser degree about the numbering of. I've seen people ask about numbering, of each channel, which I thought was kind of an odd question as well. Like, will there be a silkscreen number for each one? And it's really like an
Well, there
aesthetic.
already is. There's numbers printed right here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, but
You know
it's
what I
really
mean?
like about an aesthetic kind of homage, really.
Yeah, it's a nod back to old school
Yeah. So,
styling.
I wouldn't get too hung up on that kind of stuff, but it's there. So actually, let's talk a little bit about the buttons. So you've got this number pad on there, on the right hand
Just to
side.
answer Fabrice real quick, because that's another question that gets asked a lot. And Fabrice says, is the SP working straight from the SD card, a la Deluge, or do projects have to be loaded in RAM? No, this is a streaming box, so it streams, and that's why you could play like a 2 hour sample if you wanted to, because it manages to stream 8 channels, or 32 streams from SD card. It has 64 megabytes on board, but that's not really relative as to what the machine can do, because it uses that as a buffer. a streaming buffer. I hope that
64
answers
meg.
the question, Fabrice.
Okay, so it's a 64 megabyte buffer, so you can
Yeah,
store
so yeah,
that.
it's got 64 meg of internal RAM, but that's not used to store. It's just used as a on the fly buffer for what it's doing.
Okay, and Jermaine just asked a common question as well about the floppy disk
Yeah,
situation.
that's something
Um,
that also gets asked a lot. And we're working, and I'm talking to a guy that knows the original format. We should be able to read samples from disk, but it's very unlikely that we'd ever be able to read sequence data because that would have been very specific to the hardware uh, in the original machine. But there are ways around that. If you have an original, you can have it play and spit the notes out of MIDI, have the samples loaded on the SP2400, and then record what it gets through MIDI. And there you've backed the sequence up, basically. You've transcoded it.
okay, yeah, yeah. So there's workarounds for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that like I don't know that like Chicken Sis or anything ever did anything with that format. I never really checked.
No, because it's not a format that's readable in PCs. That's
Okay.
why. The reason being is that the actual format of the disk itself is not readable by the firmware that's built into to a PC, the way that a PC reads disks. As far as I'm aware, it's the 1200 disk format works much more, as I am aware, it works much more like a vinyl, where it's a lead in, and the data goes totally sequentially across the disk from the inside to the out. Whereas with a PC formatted disk, it's in sectors around the disk. So the disk will do a revolution, read a little bit because that's where the sector is, revolve again, read a little bit more. You know what I mean? So that makes it really difficult to use um, a standard PC drive to read the disks. But I'm out of my depth a little bit there. But I'm speaking to someone that does know about the format. But
Okay. Okay.
that's where that is. It would for sure be an external peripheral to read the disks.
So can we talk about the other USB ports on here? So is there any possibility of like USB audio coming out of this thing, using it as an interface or anything like that?
That's already in. Well, it's not actually in there right now, but yes, it will be sending the audio data back into USB.
Okay. So you'll be able to stream. Do you know how many channels?
8.
8. And we got D Steel in here is asking a very self-serving question. So what the factories what's the factory sound library like? And this is something that I've been harping on about.
Well, a lot of that factory sound library. So yeah, there's also a 2 gigabit flash chip that's built into the machine that will be rewritable via firmware updates. But there are. Well, you've only got to go look at the Isla Instruments website and look at the some of the beta testers in there, and most of those people that are beta testers are beta testers also because they agreed that they would produce some nice little sample packs. And there's a few people that are doing that I haven't had the chance to update the website with. One of those is DJ Lethal, who's really into the machine. Todd Terry, there's samples coming from quite a few heads, which I'm really excited about. I want their samples. But yeah, so there's going to be some built-in kits for sure that you just hit the ground running with, and they will be flashable.
Okay. So yeah, as far as
There won't be any room for any of your kits, though, Ken. Sorry, mate.
I don't know if you can afford me at this point.
That was a long pause. I was going to say, is your mic still on?
Oh, I was thinking it was rolling, and I was thinking, well,
Easy Mo B, yeah, for sure.
I think I know where he lives. Yeah, I could burn his house down. Okay, I mean, I didn't say that on the air though, so strike that from the record. Yeah. So moving on from that, the whole unit, right? There's a lot going on as far as we're talking USB hosting, USB audio
Yeah.
interfacing, pad interfacing. You've got fancy ass knobs on this thing. What what's going on right now that's like that we're not aware of that we need to be aware of on this thing? What is something that you're kind of wanting to
Well,
share with
nothing
us?
really, because that's the whole kind of that's my whole sort of way that I do it is I try to keep everyone updated as much as possible online. So, with what I'm doing, the open build process. So there isn't really anything at the moment that I've got that's a secret about it. Certainly not that I'm going to share. And that's also a big mistake to do that, because if it's a whimsical idea and I tell you about it now, then the coders in the morning will be like, "Fuck, do you say that for? I can't do that." But then I've promised it online, and then I'm in trouble. So, nah, nice try, Ken.
Hey, listen, I'm always here to put you on the spot. You've been controlling this thing, and doing some. You've just been kind of messing around with this thing, both internally and externally, right? Like controlling it from MIDI and whatnot.
Yeah, so I've been messing around. Well, actually, I've got Cubase. So that's something that's just come into the firmware now. Is that most
Oh,
of the
hold on.
all
I'm
of
gonna cut. I'm gonna cut your ass off because I keep seeing this freaking question and it's driving me mad. So I'm gonna answer it again for like the thousandth time. Yes, analog filters are on board. Okay, we're gonna. There's been multiple videos specifically about this, and I keep
Yeah, come
seeing
on, I can't keep going
people.
over that one again.
Dude, I keep seeing people like online like ranting about how
In
it's just
fact, if you
digital
go,
filters, and I'm like, what the hell? Where are you
if
getting this from?
I did a video just about a week or 2 weeks ago. If you look on the YouTube, I specifically did a video just about the filters, what's included, how they work, and how they work in comparison to the OG. Um, yeah, come on, we ain't got to talk about the filters anymore. And
So,
John, to just there's loads of past videos as well that you can hear the machine in demo. It's not really a good because you're listening to this right now through the
yeah, we already discussed about if
you're
you're
only
trying to
hearing
do an
that through my
audio.
monitors out there, so it's not a good. There's lots
We're
of
not
demos
doing an
that
audio
fly here.
demo over 30 kilobytes a second live streaming. Come on.
Yeah,
And if you want to like throw other people's names out there, you could be like, okay, well then show us the hardware. Like it's like you're like don't say, oh well, this person's doing this. It's like okay, but they're also not doing this. So it's
yeah.
like
No,
don't
I
compare
understand. And
apples and
also,
oranges.
again,
That's it's rude.
to follow up with you there, John, you can't hear the swing because the sequencer isn't running on here yet. At the moment, it's being externally sequenced. So we've got to get a lot of these features in, like sample playback, what samples can do before we implement the sequencer, because we might want control over a lot of those parameters within the sequencer. So you don't write the sequencer there and then start adding to it. Oh, we've added this feature, so we need to add that into the sequencer. It's much more from a logistics point of view. It's better to get it doing everything it does, being controlled externally, and then you implement the sequencer then afterwards, right?
So
You know what I mean?
here's a legit question though. So people want to know about like basic effects. Are you
Yeah.
planning basic effects for like the end chain?
Yeah,
What's
so
your
that's
thoughts?
in terms of DSP. Yeah, I've been told that we can. Again, you know what I'm like, because I can't promise too much stuff if I get told off for it the next day when it's not implemented. But yeah, I've already been told that reverb and delay shouldn't be a problem. We've already got the digital filters. I've thrown about ideas about sidechain compression with certain channels reacting with volume to another channel's output. Um, yes, there's going to be scope for some DSP effects, and that's what. So we've got an assign button here. So if you've looked at pictures of the machine, you've got these two dual. You've got a dual pot there on every channel, and then you've got an assign button. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit the assign button, move a pot, and what that's going to do on the screen is go through what function you want that pot to be on. So, okay, I want this to be, as you're holding a sign down and moving the pot, okay, I want it to be cut off, or I want it to be uh, reverb level, or I want it to be, so all of these pot functions will be assignable. So that's how we'll deal with getting the extra DSP and stuff like that in there. But I've said yes, it's feasible and it's possible, but if you look on the website, none of that has been set in stone.
So okay, I tried to cut
Because
your
I'll
face
just
off there.
explode my developers' heads, and then they can't see the wood for the trees. So we've got the most important focus now is to get this running, you know, doing it exactly one to one what the OG did. So and then we start adding. I mean, it's already doing other things like filters and stuff per channel, but once we've got that functionality, then we start adding icing on the cake.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So another question that I feel like should be presented is you had already
These
mentioned about.
AMAs are really nerve wracking, man. I need a cigarette break.
Listen, man, I got to put the screws to you because it's been a while since we had a stream, and it's like, dude, NAMM's coming, going. People are like,
Yeah.
NAMM's here, SP2400 should be there, blah blah blah. Then
Did anyone ask you about it at NAMM?
Dave Rossum.
Oh,
no, no, I had a nice, friendly conversation with Dave. It was nice. I actually brought it up to him, not the other way around. I don't want to present that in any weird way and then have people act up.
yeah. No,
No,
he's
no,
a
Dave.
the guy's an absolute legend. Come on,
Yeah, Dave is a great guy, and
one of
I've
my
had him on the
heroes.
show, and he's a really nice guy. But beyond that, I was just joking about that. People were asking about it on the show floor, saying, "Hey, is it here? Is it here?" And like running around the show because NAM's huge, and you can't find half the things you want to see anyway on a good day. So people were running around looking for it, and I was like, "No, it's not here. It's not here. We'll talk about it after NAM." So now it's after NAM, and we get to talk about it, and I get to put screws to you a little bit about a few different things. So one of the things that I wanted to know about is the daughter card
Yeah,
conversation. Now you explained this a good bit in the filter video, but for people who are new to this and don't understand, so there are the analog filters that are in there now are SSI analog filters that are equivalent to what was in the original the OG SP1200, right?
yeah,
By EMU. And these emulate all those circuits, right? So you've
yeah,
got the fixed filters of all those plus two dynamically controllable filters. Is that
yeah.
correct?
So yeah, exactly the same. And that thing, where people pulled out the jack halfway to get the different filter sound, both direct and filtered are there instead of except pulling the jack out halfway, which people did. That you can switch them in with digitally controlled analog switches to pull them in and out of circuit, so that you don't have to unplug the jacks. The whole point of the daughter card, and I always reference filters on the daughter card, being, we can have 8 SSI filters, so that you'll have sweepable SSI filters on every channel. But then all the Curtis chips have also been re-released, so we'll be able to also do different filter cards, so SSM for SSI filters, Curtis filters. But essentially, what the daughter card connector is an insert path for every channel, for all of the 8 channels. So it doesn't have to just be a filter. You know what I mean? It's just it's a header that is just directly in the insert path of the channel. So it could, for instance, that somewhere down the line, and like I said before, I think we're going to open source, or at least release the pinouts and everything for that, because there might be third parties that might want to make DSP cards, or it might not just stop at analog filters. It could be people might want to insert like foghorns and stuff like that in that foghorn button. Boomer
um,
sailors.
yeah. So one of the things about the daughter card thing that I'm like, I get excited about when I think about the possibility of is the fact that you said that you would open it up to third party.
Yeah,
That gets me excited because I think about like this, like my Euro rack, and I think, man, there's so many cool filter styles that are out there, and
exactly. And there's many more. There's so many talented people out there that and that could create its own sort of little mini ecosystem. That's not a new thing. Even if you go back to old Emu machines, I had an Emu drumulator that I got real cheap years ago now, but I opened it up, and it was full of, it had like switches on the front of it with a load of chips, EPROMs that had loads of extra sounds for this Emu drumulator. I can't remember what the company was called. It wasn't D Drums, but it was something. But what was really interesting is that the company that made all these extra add-ons for the Emu drumulator in the form of these boards with extra chips on ended up being ended up being DigiDesign, turning into DigiDesign a la
Oh,
Pro
I
Tools.
didn't know that.
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting when you look. So they DigiDesign a la Pro Tools started out making little chip upgrades
That's
for the
awesome.
Emu drumulator. Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
so that's nice, because Emu sort of gave birth to an ecosystem of other companies springing up making sounds for. It'd be nice if that came full circle and people are making cards for this.
Yeah, yeah, and a side note to that is that even when filter designs are the same, how they're implemented can drastically change how they sound.
Yeah, the topology that you surround it, like the SSI 2144. There's loads of different topologies that you can do around that. Yeah,
So yeah, just on
there's a
that
lot of
level,
cork sniffing around filters and how they sound.
there is, but I'm one of those guys that not necessarily cork sniffing about it, but I love to dive into them. Like I
Yeah,
mean, it's what I do, you know. So it's one of the things that I really enjoy. It's one aspect of a synthesizer or a sampler that you can very noticeably change things around and do interesting things. And yeah, you can make subtle changes and then you can make drastic ones and then there's everything in between. There's everything from smooth to gritty, you know. And like for instance, if you look at like the TB303 market and the clones of those that are out there, you can hear all these different types of iterations of that filter style, you know, that
yeah,
all kind of had their own character and their own vibe, you know, and you as a dance music guy, a house music guy would definitely be aware of that. But I mean,
yeah, like
for
Sherman
instance,
Filter Bank and all those different.
yeah, exactly. And like for instance, I have a Zoxbox MK3 and I love how that thing sounds. Like
Yeah.
I absolutely adore it. And you know, real 303, Zoxbox, you know, different versions and you know whatever else, Avalon.
My
I'm
favorite
like,
filter is the Timberwolf, for instance.
so we're ending the stream now. And you're I think you just literally made your company go bankrupt.
Legitimate question there from Jan Henkel. How many voices can be simultaneously played? 8 for each channel. One. So each channel is monophonic, cutting itself off, or can the channels be played polyphonic so it doesn't cut itself off? So yes, true to the original. There are 4 banks of 8 sounds, but if you go into bank B and you're hitting something on pad 1, it's going to cut whatever was playing on bank A on pad 1 at the moment. Um, yes, 1 for 1, like the OG. There are 8 voices essentially. Although there are 32 sounds, there are only 8 voices. However, I think as we find out just how much pressure we're putting on the processor, um, we should be able to pull off some sort of making a drum channel that might be playing several different samples, on one channel. If you're only using basic mixing. But that's certainly not going to be in the firmware at launch time.
So let's
But it's
talk a
certainly a
little.
possibility that we'll be able to do that. Some internal mixing on, bundling samples onto one channel.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Let's talk a little bit about the mentality of the power behind the chipset that you're using and what you can do with it, and then the throughput of audio, right?
Yeah.
So you've got these 8 channels of audio going through analog, right? Um, are you okay with the idea of like, well, you know, like if I can paraphonically or however you want to call it to piss off Mark, um, you know, you could send multiple streams of a digital sample being played polyphonically over top of itself through an analog output because the
Yeah, well,
reason why I bring it.
they would have to be being mixed digitally before they hit the DAC, though.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So the reason why I bring it up is because as you know as well as I do, so the filters, the analog filters have a sound for sure. But a lot of the character that I think people really like about the 1200 sound and the vintage sound of samplers is no filter involved. Give me all the grit, give me all the dirt, give me all the aliasing, all that kind of stuff. And in that case, it's like, well, can I have as much polyphony as you can throw at me, and just let it get dirty and let it do whatever. And I'm not really worrying about doing enveloping or whatever on an analog filter that would cause issues down the line if I'm going straight and basically either bypassing it or keeping it stagnant. Whatever. You know, is that something that you're okay with?
I mean, you lost me halfway through that, to be honest. Yes, I'm all right with it, but also something to take away from that is that if you put too much functionality into the box, it will veer away from what makes it so revered in the first place. Is going back to, there's a million boxes that can do a million things, but when the learning curve becomes that steep on the trajectory of what you're trying to do on it involves so many different buttons and all these editing capabilities. You go and speak to Easy Mo B, who's an absolute master on the SP1200, or Kenny Dope, and you ask them about, oh, don't you wish it had all of these features? And they'll be like, no, no, I don't wish it had all these features. I wish it had a bit more sample time. But the whole point is being able to sit in front of something and just vibe off it real quick, because there's not that much to get apart from the only thing that's standing in the way of you, making a decent groove on it is you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I feel
not
that.
the firmware, which is the stuff that's it. It's great that we've got all these machines now that are like standalone fucking doors in a box in their own right, but it's the same as going learning Photoshop or something. It's like you've got to go on a course and for me that's just not it. I mean, I'm all right. I've been using Cubase since I was like 15, but for a lot of these kids, they go out and buy a bit of kit, and they buy it and then they get frustrated with it, and they'll either be, oh, this is just a piece of shit, and whinge about it on the internet just because they can't use it, or they'll just won't end up making music on it because it's too convoluted. So I'm very much for not putting too much into the box. And my stance on that is, if people will turn around and be like, oh, it'd be great if it did this, but it doesn't do that, so it's not great. Well, my stance on that will be, look, just don't buy it. Go and buy something else. Don't, it's, I want it to be a renaissance of just getting in front of something and grooving out with it. Those days are lost. And now I sound like a real old bastard.
I just wanted to say for the people that are watching, okay, boomer.
Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I'm old. Come on, and yeah, you're right. It's like having a great big, VGA screen on the front or something. And
you just say VGA.
what? Shut up.
He's like, I got CGA in the back too. Dot matrix is printing out the manual. So that's one of the things that I think is it kind of harkens to the whole design of it. So we had talked about this before, where an interesting aspect of it is the sampler is being built from the audio side character first, meaning the whole thing is being made with, like, we want to make it sound a specific way, sound good, sound how we want it, and then build everything around that. Whereas previously, it's usually been about, like, okay, features, 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 and here's a sampler that's being controlled by those features. So it's interesting to have a piece of gear from the gate that's like, okay, here's all these quirks, and we want these quirks to be part of your workflow. We want you to indulge in them, and we want you to, like, take this thing and say, okay, this I'm not using this the same way I'm using an MPC. I'm not using this like Beatmaker
Yeah,
3. I'm not using this like FL Studio. I'm using it like the 2400, you
yeah.
know?
Because I'm sitting in front of it and I'm going, and not.
Yeah, I tell you, I've gotten like over the past year, I've gotten a lot of different samplers and a lot of different gear that I've been messing with. And I to the same point that we were talking about, I just show this. I highly recommend everybody grab one of these things. This is the Pocket Operator KO33. And it's just like a little lo-fi sampler.
Have we switched
Doesn't
to a? Is this a intermediate commercial break or something now?
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
definitely
right.
promoting somebody else's product. But so what I want to do is I want to sell these direct from my website
Can
for
I take a peek real
for
quick while
seven
you do
hundred
it
and
then?
fifty dollars. No, I'm
I'm
kidding.
going for a wee. I'll be right back.
You do that. So I'm going to tell people about this. So point is that this thing has a quirky workflow, right? And and it has an interesting sound, but it's got this like very limited feature set and quirky workflow, and it's actually become like one of my favorite pieces of gear lately, just because of the extra limitations on it. Because if I'm working on the MPC Live or if I'm working on Machine or Push, I'm finding myself constantly like diving overly deep. Instead of just making the music, I'm going so deep that I'm like, oh, well, now I just want to be able to do this with this with this. And then I'm like diving so deep that the engineers are like, man, why you got to go that deep? But when you have something that's like a bit, purposely limited, you can work in a more musical and efficient way to where like some of us we need blinders on, and it puts the blinders on you and it makes you go forward, and you just end up creating beautiful music as opposed to experiments, you know. How was your way?
It was beautiful. Yes,
What was
Digidrum.
weird is that he didn't
Good
even go to the
shout.
bathroom. He did that in the corner
Remember
of the
the name? Yeah,
studio.
it was Digidrums. That's it, and they became Digidesign. See, Eric Score. See, I can just sit there for. That's how I get to sleep at night. I'll sit there on YouTube and listen to like 4 hour documentary about how the Paula chip in the Commodore Amiga was came up with, and just just weird crap.
No, I love
But
stuff
yeah,
like that. Yeah. I mean, well, shoot, if you look at Marshall amps, I mean, that's how they started. They were modifying, what was it, Fender? They were modifying Fender amps, and then it went from there. Actually, there was multiple companies that started by doing that.
yeah,
So like the whole third party market and modifiers market, JHS pedals started by modifying other people's pedals. And
yeah,
and I highly recommend that YouTube channel because it's fantastic. But his pedals are great too. There's a lot of companies that get birthed from people not kicking the crap out of other people who are just trying to enjoy the other people's products. Part of enjoying those products sometimes is just creating off of it.
yeah. I'm intrigued by Bossa Cobra there. What about plugging an SP404 into the SP2400? I got to
Wouldn't
know
you go
what's in
the
your
other way
head.
around?
I want to know what's in your head with that, dude. Where are you coming from with that question?
I would go the opposite way around with that. I would have the 2400 going into the 44, and then you use the performance effects with the knobs to do that. That's how I would think of that. Most a lot of not most a lot of people that are using 404s aren't even using them for the sampler so much. They're using them for the performance effects. So
Right. So it's a bit like a DJ kind of controller.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that and like the chaos pads and that sort of thing. It's
Yeah.
kind of similar idea. But whatever.
See again going to that minimalist thing. I used to DJ a lot. I was like soulful house DJ, and to me, DJing is all about just blending one record into another.
For
And then when
me, it
all
was
the chaos pads came out, and then the Pioneer DJM mix series came out, and everyone's just like all the effect. I'm like,
I
just,
feel
just,
bad because like that's
just,
what I have right here is my DJM. I love my Pioneer DJM.
just
I
blend two
use the
records, man.
707 though
You
with
get a
no
rotary
effects,
rain mixer,
scratching.
and you're golden. That's all you need. But
Yeah, all I cared about was scratching and sampling. So, but that's because I have terrible rhythm. So whatever. Uh, no, the interesting thing about the
hey,
2400
Corey.
having those what do you call them, phono inputs on them. What can you tell me a little bit about the preamp on that?
What in the SP2400?
Yeah, well, no, something else. You know something else that's got phono preamps that you want to talk about?
No, and it was funny because I was saying that to Dave Noller, who works with me. He's Dynamics 2, if there's any of you Miami bass electro classic guys. He works for me. I said to him in passing the other day, I was like, because a lot of people, in fact, I think you included, when I first said I'm putting phono preamps, and then you went, "Why? What?"
That is what I
Um,
said because my mindset on that, and I want to get crucified in the YouTube stream by people who disagree with me, but my mindset on this, and it's totally different from what you ended up telling me, so I get it now. But my mindset is if I have turntables,
yeah,
either
you've got a
A,
mixer and you've got a line out.
I have a mixer, or B, the turntable has line outputs on them newer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which the newer turntables and people who are just buying a turntable to sample from, they're probably buying one with line outs on it.
yeah. Well,
So
I was
that's why
really,
I told you early on. I was like, I don't think you should do that. But
yeah.
then
Well,
you
I was
started
kind of
talking all
thinking
kinds of
about the time code
shenanigans.
vinyl, and I was also kind of thinking, just why not?
And I'm over here like, well, because nickels and dimes.
Yeah, but I don't have to nickel and dime stuff because I'm not a team. I don't have a team of 50 people developing this product,
But
which can work.
I'm used to consulting for people who are like, "Oh, well,
I haven't got. If
we're
I
going to
come up
have to
with some
trim the power button on on that
exactly, if I
product."
come up with some bullshit idea like I want a phono preamp, not only do I want one phono preamp, I want two. I have not got someone there in finance saying, "No, you can't fucking do that. You can't do that."
Your
Or I'll
finance
tell you
guy
what,
is
we'll leave it there, but
crazy.
we'll just have the little blank bits on the PCB where you can see where the components should have been. When you open up stuff and it's like that. No, it's in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't cost that much more, but it opens up a whole realm of other possibilities that wouldn't be there if they were just line inputs.
Look at this.
And
I just
also, it's got one times gain, 10 times gain, and 100 times gain. So you can also, which I will do in the video, but I'm going to do a bit of singing in the video.
Oh
You
god.
can plug an SM58 straight into it
So,
and record
okay,
without a preamp. It's not going to be the best sounding preamp ever, but it's there if you need it.
yeah. And it'll read well. I'm not saying that the unit will. I'm saying the possibility is there to where it could read time code.
Yes.
The
Yeah, that's
possible,
not actually
because
that
you
much of
don't
a
need
technically difficult thing.
yeah, you don't need a high end preamp to be able to read time code, and just the
No.
possibilities of that could be interesting. Like early on, I was matter of fact, I just found them the other day. I'll pull them out. I thought this was kind of funny and interesting. Oh, not that one. That's disgusting. Uh, yeah, here they are. I've got a bunch of these like pre-release tractor vinyls from back when I was working on tractor back in the day. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know if you can see the color very well, but these were like test presses of tractor and flux with it green, which was pretty cool. But yeah, so I kind of think about that sort of thing, and I'm like, man, like I remember a while ago they had promised that that machine was going to be able to work with time code and this and that, and then it never happened. Or not. So I've always looked for a
I
sampler that
thought
would
it
be able to
did. I
do
thought
that.
it could. Yeah, but again, that would kind of make sense because it's this sort of corporate mentality that if you make machine able to read time code vinyl, then that's going to start kind of negating the need for tractor hardware, isn't it?
Back in the day, well, not back in the day, but a while ago, I went to a release party for the Tractor F1. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like a
Yeah, that was
pad
a right.
controller that had some faders on it, and
Yeah,
basically the big thing about it was that it would allow you to automatically sync your samples so that you could kind of just be triggering clips and everything would be in sync and you could do remixes mad easy. And it was like, man, this is going to link up with machine and not so much. But
yeah,
anyway,
it's never that easy. I'm with
it's
you,
all about like in larger companies it tends to be a
Bossakova.
what's that?
Bossakova's drinking with us.
Ah, hey, cheers. Um, so
Cheers.
yeah, I mean, in larger companies, it tends to be a lot of like, okay, one team's not talking to the other team or whatever it is. But and I'm not necessarily saying that I expect to see this kind of thing anytime soon because you guys have a lot of work cut out for you as far as
Like I
getting the
said,
base functionality down.
the most important thing to get right out of the door is that at the very least, it's going to behave exactly like the OG. You're going to get on it. Everything will be the same when it does all of that functionality, and with a few extra things like filters and stuff like that. And I'm hoping that we can add more of that as well by the time it's shipped. But obviously, at the very minimum, it's going to do exactly what it was supposed to do. And then there's always scope to start adding stuff. But like, I can't start frying the developers' heads with, can we do this? Can you do that? Can you do that? Yeah, can we have it done for launch day? It's just not going to happen. And all it does is confuse and compound issues with software development and gets people upset. And then you start not seeing the wood for the trees. And as we've already said, the most important thing that this is going to do is bring back that old school workflow, which is what the most important thing that out that we've people have already heard that the sound is pretty much nailed. I don't care about a few people that like, oh, it sounds different to me. Fine, oh, well that's okay. It doesn't matter if it sounds different to you. The sound is pretty close. There's that's been done, which hasn't been done so far. And then the workflow has to be done. And as long as those two things are there, that's where the magic was created with all of those other amazing artists in the 90s that used that sound and that workflow. So we'll get that nailed for release. And then we start, adding all of the extra goodies.
All right, so here's we'll get towards the end here, so that I'm not keeping you all night like I usually do. I don't even know how long it's been. I didn't. We started at 8:30, so yeah, it's been about an hour. So we're right there. Look at that.
All right,
I'm
see
like,
you then.
are you seeing that? It's impressive, right? Oh, I just leveled up as a human. So we'll end it out, and here's what I'm gonna say. I expect you to get this video up this weekend, right?
Yes, yes. So tomorrow I've got to go and get a USB-C adapter for that bloody HDMI
Make
switch.
it happen.
Uh, and then yeah,
Yeah, so I want to see a video up this weekend, and then hopefully we can be talking
my
again
and
in.
again my video updates, because there's going to be a period of until we get into production, and I've done all my work in terms of getting the design files and everything ready, and all of that stuff, and the little tweaks that we've had to do here and there, and then building these few units. There's going to be a period now that as the software updates, firmware updates start flowing into me, I'm just going to be able to do videos with them straight away. And that's part of the reason why I've gone out and got these cameras and stuff, so that I can start doing, give us constant stream of content so people can see how the development is up until the point it ships. Which kind of rings into what Mark Garcia just asked there. Is it going to come with a manual? It's not going to come with a physical manual, trees, dude, but there will be a downloadable manual. Um, but it's very difficult to write the manual for when everything hasn't been implemented yet. So that's and Sunshine Jones, who is such an artistic guy. I'm sure loads of you know who he um, is a fantastic writer and a fantastic talker. And he's going to be having a big part of doing the user manual, because
Oh,
tend
nice.
to
Yeah, that's dope.
I tend to rant as I write stuff, and he tends to be much more poetic as he writes. Which, when you read the technical stuff that he writes, because it's so poetic, it's much more easy to absorb the stuff that he writes about. So there'll be that, and there's going to be loads of videos and stuff. So it's not going to be one of those things that there's going to be a huge learning curve or a huge manual for. I fucking hate manuals. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this. It's like, you want a machine that you don't really need a manual for to be able to get on it, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a whole design mentality right there. Is like, hey, make it so that you can actually use it and not fight the damn thing, which is
Yeah.
which is good. I'm selling a sampling drum machine right now because I'm like, yeah, I'm not inspired
Which
by
one's
how
that?
Rhythm MK2.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So you won't buy it, and I'll sell it to you.
Research
uh,
purposes.
no,
Yes, there will be a automatic sample chop function, but I can't promise that that's going to be there in there when it's shipped. But with firmware updates and stuff, it may be, but I can't promise
it
that.
would
But yeah,
probably it
but
probably
for
be
sure
outdated
there
by the
will
time
be
it
an
ships anyway.
automatic sample chop and truncate and stuff like that, and
How
slice it.
often are manuals finished for gear that comes out these days anyway that there isn't an addendum within the first month anyway?
Exactly, yeah.
So,
But even so, I think that's like the. I don't think people read manuals anymore. Only us older folk
oh, I
tend to.
disagree. I disagree about
Are
that,
you?
but
I'm see. I'm not a manual reader.
see, I'm. I'm a nerd. I wear glasses, so that's how it goes. Yeah, you better take them off. I don't.
These are-
Damn rave kid. Uh, no. I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of people out there that enjoy manuals, but I feel like there's different types of learners. Some people are visual learners. Some people are audio learners. They just want to hear things. Some people want a physical manual. There's when a manual's done right, it can be a really beautiful thing. I always harken back, and I have no affiliation with these people. Novation Ultra Nova manual is one of the greatest manuals I've ever read. Like it's just
it's
written
very
so well.
graphical though. That's why.
It's graphical and it's well written,
I
and
know that. I
in the
know that manual,
preface,
and you're right.
yeah, and
You're
in the
the one
preface
that
it
they
gives
give
like a whole it
for the
gives a
auto
whole like
mapping series.
explanation of
Yeah,
subtractive synthesis and wavetables, like great stuff. um the hydrosynth manual is really nice. It was written by Randy Lee, and is it's very well done. Certain manuals are really good. I've had horrible manuals, like if you get a System 1 and you open it up
horrible
and the
manuals.
manual is literally one sheet.
The Geek's Guide to Sex. That was a bad manual,
Dude,
wasn't it, mate?
some manuals are horrible, some manuals are great, but I fully agree with you. As much as I like a nicely printed manual, I think the smarter route is really to let people print it themselves. If you want a nicely printed manual, go to Kinko's, go to Staples, have them print it out for you.
Yeah.
That's what I did with my Prophet 12. Like I binded it and all that, but you don't need to kill all those trees to do that.
Well, it's not. It's yeah, and it's not
And
only
hemp
just that.
paper is
Like you
still too
said, it's about
expensive.
printing a manual and then it just being out of date by the time it's arrived. So it's
Exactly. And hopefully you guys keep updating it, and the manual has to change anyway.
yeah.
That's the hope.
No, and
That's
I'm
all I
really,
gotta say.
as soon as that Cordbot firmware, as we've spoke about this before, but the Cordbot firmware was gone from the ground up and is coming on really nicely. Um, but again, when that developer is done with doing that, then we can sort of upgrade the manual for the Cordbot a bit. But then also we've got that developer then coming on to the SP2400 as well, so it'll be. And he's a
Cool.
DSP guy as well, so it'll be nice to the ramp up will be there.
So, all right, I think we should end the stream. Are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that. I think we've answered most of the questions.
I'm gonna give like a quick chance for people to ask any question that you haven't asked yet, and if it's not like a jackass comment, then we'll answer it.
Logan just got here. He's a bit late to the party, but
Well, that's turtle core.
you can watch the whole stream, dude, and then just ask one of us questions on my Facebook chat anyway. So
Yeah. Can we get a shirt for pre-ordering?
I've been thinking about that actually, but I'm not promising it. But I have been thinking about it for the
If
pre-order.
you add an extra like
It
thirty
depends. It
dollars,
depends. It depends just how much money is swallowed up into getting all this stuff here and getting it out the door with shipping. Because I know I've been undercharging for shipping, so we'll see. If the scope's there, I'm thinking about sending out shirts.
I was gonna say if you add like $30, like I can send a Flux with it shirt in there. So it's a premium.
I mean, I don't really think many people want the Flux of it shirt, to be honest
I know
with
you probably wouldn't give me the money for it anyway. You'd be like, "Oh, they added $30. Give me the shirt." I never said I'd pay you.
you. If you pay me $30 per shirt, I'll add a Flux with it shirt to the box.
So listen, I want to give a shout out to Barbecue
It's
Fetus, who
called
is
exposure
apparently extremely high right now. So I want to give a shout out to him just for that.
box.
Um, and I'm a big fan of barbecue. So like, if anybody knows me, like, man, let me tell you about my hot wings. Actually, I guess I shouldn't, but I had some bomb ass hot wings tonight. So anyway, crossfade looping available on the SP2400, and how close are the swing values compared to the original? So I
So
guess that gets
swing
back to
isn't
the fact that
implemented.
go ahead.
Okay, so swing isn't implemented yet because the sequencer, as I said earlier, the sequencer isn't kind of comes last because we need to be able to automate stuff that we want to automate of features that we've already implemented. A lot of time when people talk about the swing on these old sequencers and old samplers and the way that those swings sounded, the reason for that is because they were kind of essentially kind of low resolution in the amount of ticks that their internal clock would tick in between a quarter note. That's called pulses per quarter note. So on very early machines, you'd have 24 pulses per quarter note, which means that in a quarter of a note, you can shift a note 24 into 24 different little pigeonholes. And then came the Akai MPC, which was 48 pulses per quarter note, I think, or 96, which meant that you had extra resolution there to be able to move notes slightly forwards or back. And our machine, as I've said before, as a classic mode, as the OG mode, and we'll also have a higher resolution mode. So in terms of getting that classic swing, it's all down to the PPQ of the machine. And in that mode, it would be operating in 24 PPQ. So essentially, it should be the same. But I'll let you hear it when it's there.
Cool. All right. So yeah, we'll close that out. I think they've had their time.
If you're just coming to the party now, like I said, I'm building enough in this first wave to satisfy everybody. So if I've said there that we're 8 to 10 weeks before we're shipping, even if you're ordering now, you would still be in that the first batch.
Hey, people keep asking about the size. Are the dimensions up on your site?
Then I think they are. So the SP2400 is almost exactly the same footprint as a piece of legal paper. To give you so two letter pieces of paper next to each other, right? We say something different in the UK. We use A4, A3, a much better system. You have like loads of silly different words for your paper sizes: ledger, legal, letter. Sorry to bash on Americans, but metric system.
Um, I'll be
But
honest
yeah,
with.
so
I'll be honest with you. I feel like it's time we went to metric. So.
yeah, it's the size of an A3 piece of paper, pretty much, or what you call ledger here.
All right, cool. We'll end the stream. I highly recommend everybody eat lots of hot wings.
11 by 17, yes.
There we go. 11 by 17. And yeah, so if you have other questions or you want more of this kind of content, we've done a bunch of these streams that has lots of different info in them. They're all long as hell, and you could just sit there and watch them
And
and
by the
be
end
like,
of it, we're usually utterly wankered.
yeah, right. Like honestly, like I'm way more sober than we usually are by the end of one of these. But that's mainly because I'm not gonna lie, man. Like I've been doing a lot of work in the studio lately, and building this studio. So the past couple weeks, I kind of like I have another project that's coming up very soon that I was like, you know what? Before I even get into that stuff, I'm gonna chill for a bit. So I got addicted to Modern Warfare on Xbox,
Yeah.
and I ended up drinking too much and playing that game way too late. So like
Well,
I
I'm
was
I'm
like, yo,
doing
I
dry
shouldn't drink.
I'm doing dry January. I'm starting now,
That's a thing.
so I've got like 3 hours
That
of
sounds
dry January.
horrible.
Go me. Your new studio, by the way, dude. You haven't talked about your new studio. It looks good.
It's here.
Yeah,
The
right.
only thing that's missing
I've
right
got to be
now.
honest. It kind of looks just from the camera perspective. It looks just like your old studio.
Oh well, my old studio. At least my old studio was neon green. I actually built this one
No, I mean it's the
for
way you've got your camera and the gear laid out. It's like you.
So this one I built aesthetically for St. Joe of soundsandgear.com and Corey of B-Boy Tech Report. I kind of let them dictate the aesthetics because I have such horrible aesthetics. Like I would make everything neon green. My old
Yeah.
studio, the walls and everything are all neon green.
You've got
And
to
I
get
was
some of
like,
this flat wall stuff that I've got. It's amazing.
that was my original idea, but the
It makes
problem is
so much more space in the.
I'm so fickle that I thought that if I did that, I would end up wanting to move and move and move and move. So like I didn't do it, and there's going to be acoustic treatment on all these walls. I'm doing custom acoustic treatment everywhere. So that's the only reason why I didn't do it. But I did. I did this. Like I can control my lights from here, which is all sexy. It gets all blown out because of the camera settings right now. But and it's still a mess in here. I'm not done wiring and all that good stuff.
You're never
But
done. You're never done wiring.
exactly, never done. But I will say that now that I actually have a space, it's nice to be able to like kind of be able to work again. The you know I've been almost 2 years without my studio because we were building this house and then, trying to get my kids situated. And I still have more to do outside of this room as well. But now I can actually work and like I've got like prototypes stacked up over here and I've got like a demo table stacked up over here. So like now I can actually do things without having to like throw things in a corner or whatever. And it's like it's going to be a whole lot better for testing and everything else. I've got oscilloscopes all over the place. I've got,
that you don't know what to do with.
oh fuck you. Maybe not. But no, like it's just nice to where now I can move around and my kids can come in here and I don't have to like yell at them or anything because there's room. Like Ollie was in here earlier making beats on an iPad, and I'm like, okay, he's 5 and he's making beats. Like I literally heard a beat behind me, and I was like, what is that? I turn around and I was like, oh shit! Like he was making beats on an iPad, and somebody's just said, "Listen, Jewel." So I want to see if I can do this real quick. See if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it. I have Alyssa Jewel going on right now back there. It's just that's a shout out to Paul. So that is the E350, kind of doing its thing, synthesis technology. Um, who's a big fan of like making you spend more money, right?
He is, yeah. Well, he's the reason why I ended up getting. As I said, I went up to NOVCON with the first prototype, and he was like, "Yeah, well, you want to be getting Grey Hill and colored for this because no one's, 3 months and that thing breaks. You just want to be putting quality in there." And I was like, "Yeah, I got you."
That
Was that a good,
impression
was
is
that a
dead
good
on,
talk?
people.
Was that pretty good?
That's pretty good, dude.
I don't think Paul's watching, but if he is, he'll see it later. Love you, dude.
I'll tell you what, Paul's got the best stories too. Like if you
He
ever
is,
get a chance
he's
to
an
talk to
awesome
Paul,
dude.
just say to him. Actually, you'll never have to say to him, but yeah, just be like, tell me a story. You'll never have to say that because he'll already be mid story when you see him. So I don't think
Tell me
he's
another
ready to
story.
stop.
No,
But
and he's writing a book about his times. I used to work for
at
what
Tandy,
we call
yeah,
Tandy. You call it Radio Shack, but I used to work for Tandy, and I remember like that's how I got into electronics was Tandy, like building speaker
my
systems.
dad was a
That book
manager
and all
there.
that.
My dad was a manager there for many
But,
years when I
yeah,
was
he
a kid.
designed like what he designed that realistic Moog synth and loads of stuff. What an interesting
Hmm.
career.
Yeah, man. His. So I highly recommend people join. He has a. Is it a separate Facebook group that's the mostly true stories or mostly true tales?
Yeah, yeah, that's his mostly true story, mostly true tales, I think, or mostly true stories. That's
Dude,
about
that
his time
that
there.
stuff is great.
But that's stuff that he's all compiling to go into a book. So I hope he does like a Kickstarter or something with that book.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I'm so all over that because those stories are honestly like the way he just naturally writes is great. But a lot of that stuff is super interesting too. So I'm like, I mean, for
Whatever
nerds
happened
like
to
us,
Sean Love?
yeah, for
I mean,
people
that guy
who
seriously did not like me. He was like,
what
yeah.
say that again?
I'm just reading questions. Whatever happened to Sean Love? Yeah, that guy fucking hated me, man. He was like,
Oh, I'm pretty sure. No, I think he's doing okay. He's got to be doing okay, right?
he
I
was
mean,
all about his arcade, but if
he
I don't
seemed
use
like he
arcade,
was
bro.
he seemed like he was really all together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I'm not hating on him. I'm just, it was
Oh,
a
I'm
bit,
not
he was
hating.
quite
I'm just
full on
I'm
when I
I'm
first announced
responding
it.
in kind is how I can respond to that. My God. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. Have fun with that. I don't want to comment anymore on that. I'm not gonna end this. I'm not gonna end the stream negatively. Damn it! I'm gonna tell people the way you do it. You do 6 minutes. You put the buffalo sauce on there, right? You heat it up another 6 minutes. More buffalo sauce. Heat it up for about another like 15 minutes. Then you hit the buffalo wings wild sauce, and then you flip it over and you put some mango sauce on the bottom. Yeah, that hot sauce in them chicken wings.
Listen, Ken, if that's how you masturbate, then that's your business. But I don't think we need to live stream that stuff, mate.
Listen, it's masturbation if you're by yourself. All right. I'm involving anybody who I can put my sticky hands on.
Right, can I go now?
No, no. One last question, okay? The the
Can we go out
2400.
with a little demo? I'm being told.
That's what I'm saying. The 2400. Can we get you to do a little something something on it? This is
Well,
like a preview of the video that's coming.
well, I'll be doing a lot of it by hand, so don't promise. And I'm a kind of half
Well,
drunk now. So
isn't that how you masturbate by hand?
hang on then. All right, let me try and get this going. Now, no poking fun at me. Promise.
Cue the people commenting about how bad and off rhythm it'll be.
See, what I can't show you here is that we can do pan now. So every channel I can start doing like an LFO effect because we've got pan, but you're not going to hear it. So,
Stereo. Hopefully the stream is enjoying that 30 kilobytes a second.
did you hear like the artifacts coming through there?
You can barely pick it out.
All right. Ready? That'll do. I'll do. I haven't got my flow.
Well, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the actual video because
Yeah.
over
Is that
this,
I said that was shit, mate.
yeah, over this you can't hear it. Like I could pick out there was like a keys kind of piece that you can kind of hear the artifacts in, but you can't really pick it out through the stream.
Don't worry. It'll
And
all be
I'm
in the
looking,
video.
yeah, and I'm not expecting it to, so I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to getting one in my hands. So I start testing that thing.
Yeah, it won't be too long, dude. Don't worry. It won't be long.
So yeah, everybody, thank you for coming and watching. I
Yeah, thanks
highly
for all the
recommend.
questions. Hope I answered most of them. And if I didn't, you're welcome to shout up on the SP2400 group.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
we've got
That's
the
another
Isla
thing
Instruments
is
Facebook page and Isla Instruments on Instagram. And well, you must all be there anyway, otherwise you wouldn't have ended up here. So
that's one of the things is that it's important to note that when you see like Isla Instruments commenting, it's not some like intern in a back room. It like you're literally talking to the guy who's creating it.
yeah.
So and that's what this is all about too. It's all
Seriously,
about like this kind of open dialogue and
the
just like,
amount
hey,
of the amount of comments that I have to delete that I made myself replying to people.
that's the other
Like, if
thing is that
they
is
come
that
on and bitch about something, I'm like, go fuck yourself.
that's the other thing is like who else
I
do
have
you
to
know that
delete.
would name a company after his own child and then cuss his ass off and make that name look horrible. So I'm just kidding. But no, it's a beautiful thing to where you can kind of you can interact with the people that are actually going to buy the stuff and that are uh every bit as excited about this stuff
It's the
as you
people
are.
that drive your informed decisions about what you're doing. Seriously, it really is. It's not there. That is it, because then you end up making something that people want, not something that you're ramming down people's throats. And then a Mark II of it, and then a Mark III of it, and then a Mark IV of it. You know how it is. We're by the people for the people. Well, we're the people using the gear. I'm the people
That's
that
one of the
I'm a
yeah.
gearhead myself, and
It's one of the things that
corporate culture isn't interested in being a gearhead and wanting to put the shit that your
it's
passion. It's
it's
that
just one of
even
those
with the
things
big
where
companies,
people
it
get
started off as passion, but it's they're huge.
Yeah, it can go both
Conglomerates.
ways as far as how people interpret it sometimes, because you'll get people that'll be like, "Oh, I just want you to be more honest and more you." And then when you're more honest and more you, they're like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't be talking about XYZ like that." And you're like, "Well, you wanted me to be real. Like, do you want me to tell you that XYZ is crap or good, or do you want me to like lie and give you this, vanilla answer,
Yeah,
and Isla Instruments tends to take the approach of like, well, we're going to be real and you either like it or you don't.
yeah.
Um, and that's admirable,
I'm
It's
from
scary as
Essex,
hell
in
and
the
it's
UK,
admirable.
Buster.
What's that?
Buster's asking him where I'm from. I'm from a shithole in the UK, Essex.
Yeah, but you live in a shithole now, like the armpit of America. Wait, no, that's Jersey. No,
Okay,
what do
come
you
on, time to go to bed.
what do you call Florida again?
Florida.
The mental asylum of America. That's what it is.
But I don't count because I'm not American, am
You count. You're there.
I?
Can you vote? You count.
No, no, not yet.
Oh no, it's not. It's not. Huh?
I'm
Oh
not a
no, no, that's just
citizen.
because of the felony convictions.
No, I'm still British at this
Oh,
point.
are you?
Yeah,
Oh man, you
because we
dirty
have an
scoundrel.
awesome thing called single payer healthcare in the UK. So if I get sick, I'll just go back to the
We'll see how
UK.
we'll see how quick that falls apart with Brexit, but
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Let's get
Right.
this. Let's get this super political.
Yeah, no, let's not.
All right, everyone, have a great night, and
Thanks, guys, for coming in.
yep. I gotta end this thing. Where's it at? Ciao.